Hey, community group leaders and teachers, I hope you're doing well, having a fabulous day. Hey, I'm excited to introduce this week's Leadership Minute. This is one more tool we can have in our tool belt to lead more effectively. Over the last several weeks, actually for this entire month, we've been looking so far at Acts chapter 2, verse 42, and looking at different ways that we can grow our community group based on what the early church did and the early practices that they put in place to remember what Jesus did, how Jesus impacted them, and how that impacted community in general. And so far, we've looked at the issue of studying scripture or studying the apostles' teaching, being devoted to that, being devoted to prayer, and both inward-focused prayer, but even specifically outward-focused prayer, that because of evangelism, that they were so moved that they wanted to pray for more people to come to faith in Jesus, and they saw more people come to faith in Jesus, which inspired them further to continue to pray for lost people. We also looked at the value of koinonia, of community, and intentionally committing to walking with each other. This week, I want to look at breaking of bread, that last phrase that's in that series. Specifically, that's probably a reference to the Lord's Supper. Scholars are actually split on that, whether that's a literal reference to taking communion together, or whether that is maybe a figurative statement about just getting together around homes and having meals together every time they met together. Either way, a big part of what was taking place, no doubt, was something that was shaped because of a response to the gospel. And so whether they literally were breaking bread and taking communion elements together, or they were figuratively doing so as they gave thanks together, they would have remembered what Jesus did for them on the cross, how Jesus impacted them, and that in turn would have challenged them to think about ways that they could take the freedom that they found through faith in Jesus to influence other people around them. So my encouragement to you as you spend time connecting in your community group is look for ways to either literally take communion together to remember Jesus' sacrifice on somewhat of a regular basis. Maybe that's once a quarter, maybe you get together in a home twice a year. I don't know what that would look like for you, but look for some way to do that, to celebrate communion together as a community group. But number two, every time you get together, every time you pray for each other, just remember what Jesus did for us on the cross, how Jesus brings us new life. Maybe ask somebody else in the group, what does Jesus' sacrifice mean to you? And go around the room and ask other people about that. There's something about sharing just from a different perspective what that is, how much that can impact everyone in the group. I remember years ago when I was leading worship for a church pretty far away from my house, and we went around. We were supposed to take communion as a team that Sunday morning and as a church body. And so as I was filling in leading worship for a friend, one of the things I asked around the circle was, what do these elements mean to you? What does it mean when we take communion? And to hear people just share those different stories of how Jesus impacted them, how either memories from childhood or memories from later on, how God used those to encourage people, how powerful that was and how powerful that can be for everyone in our groups. So my encouragement and challenge to you is look for ways to build regular patterns of taking communion together as a community group, number one. Number two, look for ways to remember Jesus' sacrifice and share how that makes a huge difference in each other's lives. I hope that encourages you and helps to build momentum for your community group just as much as it did for the early church in Acts chapter 2. If you have any questions about that or any other issues, please feel free to reach out to me. You can shoot me an email or text, but hey, I look forward to seeing you back here again soon for another Leadership Minute. Blessings.